Hi, I'm Mike Peregrim, and this is my Shift 570 story about my 95 Jeep YJ Sahara. So my first 4x4 adventure was on a Massey Ferguson farm tractor, working for my dad at a resort that he runs. I took it out, 12 speeds, forward and reverse, got me acquainted with the idea that I wanted to shift a gear. So imagine yourself, it's the late 90s, you're 16 years old, and I went out and I thought, I want a Jeep. I wanted open top. I wanted a little adventure. I wanted a little something else. When I got my first car, an 87 Mercury Topaz, of all cars, you know, the most boring car that the Malaise era ever presented itself. And a very abrupt thing was I was not meant to drive an automatic transmission. It lost all adventure on me immediately. I mean, the car was not fun to begin with, but it lost everything. So I found myself a 91 Wrangler Sport, the stick, gray seats, red Jeep, a blast. And you know what, as a 16-year-old kid driving around the summertime to football practice and what have you, it was the best. We had this, and once you have a Jeep, going in the woods is the thing. You're 16, 17 years old, and now you've got a little freedom because you can go beyond just the street, you can go to the trail. And you start finding trails and you start making campsites, and now you're camping every other weekend. At that age, it was the most adventurous thing imaginable. I mean, we were every weekend camping out. We found an island in a stream. We called it Red Star Island. You know, tiki torches, hammocks, built-in fire pit, you name it, we had it. And that was the joy of that era. Like you couldn't live more like a king than on your own island in the middle of unclaimed woods in your Jeep, driving right up. So I had that Jeep junior year of high school, well, summer before junior year of high school, all the way through into college. My sophomore year of college, it finally got worn out, and you know, you're a little older, you're going out, you're trying to meet girls, and having a vehicle that where you roll down the window and the door opens up on them, not the most conducive thing to impressing anyone. You know, after that, I sold the Jeep for $1,000. It was a great Jeep. I still kind of wish I had it. I mean, there was definitely a little nostalgia factor that, you know, to the one. I leased a brand new 2003 Honda Civic Si. That was the EP3 model. That was hatch with the shifter up on the dashboard, the rally style shift. After that, I immediately went into another black hatchback, but this time it was a Volvo C30R. That car was fantastic. And that's the car that actually I met my wife with, was the C30R. So that car, you know, I met my wife, we had a child. Actually, the part of that car that made me fall in love with my wife was that she could drive a stick and drive it probably better than I could overall. Maybe not so much today, but at the time, at least. Now, life moves on. You know, you grow up, you get married, you have a family, and we learned that a stroller does not fit well in a C30R. So I moved on to a Passat W8. It was 2004. I bought it used. Way too much fun in that W8. I mean, that's a weird, wonky car for anyone who knows what it is. It was a combination of Bentley, Audi, and Volkswagen wrapped up into one. Made it into a 6-speed. It was the sport model, so it had the BBS wheels. That was the hardest stick I've ever learned to drive. So following the W8, which again was just a lot of fun, I traded that in. We bought a true family car, 2009 XC70. We had that car about 4 years. So I took over my wife's Subaru. It was a 2001 Subaru Impreza Outback wagon. But I realized, like, I pained again to have a manual transmission in my life. We decided we could have a third vehicle, another car, a fun car. You know, as long as it was cheap and easy and obtainable. And I thought back to my past and the vehicles I had in the past, and the Civics and the W8s and the C30Rs and things like this. And I realized that the one that brought me the most joy, and now being, you know, a dad with a kid, the most joy I could share with a kid was Jeep. Like, this was the car that I had drifted the furthest from, but it was also the car that made me smile the most in the past. So I sought out to find a YJ. So now it's about 2013. The JK was out, but it was out of my price range. I wanted an older Jeep. I had actually considered going into a CJ, like a CJ7 era, because I love the flat dash look of them, but I didn't want to deal with a carburetor or a C-channel frame. I was interested in the TJ as well, the later models, the 2007 through 2006, but they were still up in price. It didn't sell me as an old car. It wasn't a classic. It didn't have that, you know, vintage look to it. And I know that sounds silly because the suspension on a TJ is absolutely better than the suspension on a YJ, but I didn't need that. I wasn't going to be a professional rock crawler. I wanted it to be the Jeep that I could take around town, go to work in, come home, pick up the wife and the kid, pick up the dog, and go to, you know, go up in the woods. The search lasted close to a year. I was exceptionally particular. I knew that I wanted one thing above all, and that was a Sahara model. And I didn't just want a Sahara model, I wanted a Sahara model with intact seats. Now, anyone who likes YJ Jeeps or loves Jurassic Park knows these seats. These are the 1993 Jurassic Park seats. The green canvas seats with the tan piping and the brown leather saddlebags on the back. That was my search. It went on Craigslist. This is before Facebook Marketplace, before, a lot of things. The only place out there was Craigslist for old vehicles. Finally, I find one 3 hours away in north central Pennsylvania. It looked perfect. The guy had already done the things I didn't want to do. He did the body work, there was no rust. He did the lift kit, he added exactly the fenders I wanted, and even a few things I didn't know I wanted until I saw it, including a drop-down tailgate. If we're gonna look at modifications made to a Jeep, there are an infinite number of things that I can talk about, and really a lot, and in-depth. And we can go into the scope of the engineering. And if you have questions, by all means, put them in the comments. I'm happy to answer them. The two things that I did on my Jeep that I am most proud of and most happy with, the first is the hand throttle. This is an easy modification to any manual transmission Jeep. It is nothing more than a little throttle cable that you attach onto the hood, to the throttle assembly, and then back, and it clicks up and down. But what a world of difference it makes when you're trying to climb over rocks and you can infinitely adjust that throttle position without having to have that bump shift of throttle from your foot bouncing with the rocks. The second modification that I really love in this Jeep, in 2017, I went on a pretty extensive vacation in Hawaii. I went out to find a Hawaiian dancer dashboard doll, and I did. The funny part was I was so excited to bring this back, and when I did, I stuck it right to the dash without the sticky pad, but I put it right on the dash and realized that she was gonna hit her head the whole time. Tiny little dash in a YJ. The windshield was so steep that it was gonna bend her forward the whole time. So I fabricated out of a small piece of aluminum, a little platform for my hula dancer to sit on, which then she wouldn't stick to because I'd coated it in the same material as the bed liner. So I had to bore a hole through the base, and it was just an overly extensive process for the tiniest detail. So she could never hit the windshield no matter how hard I was shaking the Jeep. It always goes perfectly. And it is the smallest, most finite thing, but the thing that every time I'm driving down the road makes me the happiest, because I know the work that went into that tiny little detail on my YJ. So we're Shift 570, a community for people in the 570 area of car enthusiasts and auto enthusiasts. It's off-road vehicles, it's bikes, it's side-by-sides, it's quads, it's cars, it's exotics, it's classic, all motor in NEPA. So if you've got a great vehicle story that you want to share with us and share with the world, reach out to us at contact shift570@gmail.com. We want to share your story.
Shift 570, all motor in NEPA.